Daniel Carter had traveled across more light years than he could remember, yet he still felt uneasy when the shuttle finally docked with the alien station. It was his first diplomatic mission as part of the United Earth Alliance, and though he had trained for months, no simulation could truly prepare a human for meeting a species that evolved under a red star. The station belonged to the Aelira, a peaceful civilization known for their graceful frames, shimmering skin, and deep respect for knowledge. To humans, they looked strange, tall and thin, almost fragile, but their technology was centuries ahead of anything Earth had once dreamed of. Daniel stepped out of the shuttle with slow, careful breaths. He expected the air to sting or feel heavy, but it didn't. It was oddly refreshing, like stepping onto a mountaintop in early morning. The engineers back on Earth had warned him that alien atmospheres might feel disturbing at first, but Daniel felt nothing except relief. A small group of Aelira stood waiting for him. Among them was Lyra, a young cultural liaison chosen to assist him during the mission. She was smaller than the others, with silver-blue eyes that reflected light like water. She bowed politely. "Welcome, human Daniel Carter," she said in a soft, musical voice. Daniel returned the bow, slightly awkward. "Just Daniel is fine." Lyra blinked, confused at his casual tone, but nodded. "Very well, Daniel." He followed them through the long, glowing corridors. Lights floated along the ceiling like drifting stars, and translucent panels on the walls showed the vast darkness outside. Daniel walked slowly, trying not to stare too curiously at everything. But he couldn't help it. The place was incredible. As they reached the living quarters, Lyra glanced at Daniel's body armor and helmet. To her species, such heavy gear looked unnatural and intimidating. "I was told humans need constant protective covering," she said. "Your body is not adapted to many atmospheres." Daniel pulled off his helmet and shook his head. "Not this one. Your scientists made sure it was safe for us. I can breathe just fine." Lyra stopped walking. Her eyes widened. "You can breathe here? Without any covering?" Daniel frowned. Yes?" She exchanged a long, surprised look with the other Aelira in the group. They whispered quickly in their melodic language. The expressions on their faces were hard to read. One part amazement, one part concern. Daniel didn't understand the reaction. Humans were adaptable. That wasn't a big secret. But he let it slide, deciding it was probably just cultural misunderstanding. They reached his assigned quarters, a simple room with a round bed, a smooth stone desk, and a large crystal window showing the swirling gases of a nearby nebula. Daniel couldn't hide his smile. It was better than any hotel he had ever stayed in. Lyra spoke again. "Your meeting with our council will be tomorrow at dawn cycle. You must rest well. I will return to guide you." "Thank you," Daniel said warmly. Lyra hesitated before leaving. Her gaze lingered on the armor he still wore. "Do not remove your protective gear while alone," she said carefully. "Accidents can happen to unprotected humans." Daniel raised a brow but nodded anyway. "Sure, no problem." Once the door slid shut, he chuckled. Protective gear? Accidents? Humans weren't that fragile. He had grown up camping in deserts, mountains, and forests. Compared to Earth storms and wild animals, this station felt like a luxury resort. After exploring the room and testing the bed, Daniel removed the last piece of armor. He stretched his arms, breathing deeply. The air smelled faintly of citrus and snow. It felt good. So good that he lay on the soft bed and fell asleep faster than he expected. While Daniel slept deeply, Lyra was still awake hours later, reviewing the files she had been given about him. Something bothered her, the way he took off his helmet so casually. Humans, according to the medical texts she studied, were supposed to be sensitive to changes in humidity, air pressure, and mineral levels. but Daniel had breathed her people's air like he had evolved on their world. She scrolled through the scanned data the station recorded when Daniel arrived. Heart rate steady, oxygen absorption normal, stress levels low. There was no sign of discomfort or adaptation struggle. Lyra tapped the panel with a thoughtful frown. "Impossible," she whispered. Lyra physiology was delicate compared to many species. Their lungs required a stable environment, their skin reacted quickly to temperature shifts, and even small atmospheric differences could cause illness. The idea of another species walking into a foreign station with no protective gear was frightening and impressive. She remembered the calm way Daniel had spoken, the relaxed smile he wore, the confidence in his posture. He didn't behave like a fragile being at all. Maybe humans were not what her people believed. Curiosity tugged at her mind. She wanted to observe more. She wanted to understand why Daniel was different from the descriptions in the archives. Just a quick check, she told herself. She left her workspace and headed toward Daniel's quarters. The station was quiet at night cycle, with only the low hum of power lines and soft pulses of light guiding her path. Standing outside his room, she hesitated, wondering whether it was rude to enter unannounced. But the welfare of a diplomatic guest was her responsibility, and the humans themselves had insisted their bodies could react unpredictably to alien atmospheres. Lyra touched the door panel. It slid open with a soft sigh. She stepped inside slowly. At first, she only saw the dim lights and the shimmer of the nebula through the window. Then her gaze fell on Daniel, fast asleep on the bed, completely uncovered. Not even a thin blanket over him. Her heart raced with alarm. He had removed everything. No protection, no environmental gear, not even the simple breathing mask recommended for first-time visitors. Lyra froze. The human lay relaxed, chest rising and falling steadily. He looked peaceful, almost fearless. She approached quietly, her steps light as feathers. She reached out with her scanner, waving it gently in front of him. The device blinked with green indicators, vital signs, stable, breathing, excellent, body stress, extremely low. Lyra could hardly believe it. He sleeps, unguarded, she whispered to herself. No barrier, no shield field, no atmospheric filter. Lyra never slept without environmental shields. They were too vulnerable. Falling asleep exposed could lead to sickness, weakness, or worse. But this human... He looked stronger asleep than many Lyra looked awake. Lyra studied him with a mix of shock and wonder. His muscles were firm, his heartbeat calmly powerful, and his body adapted perfectly to the environment as if it were his home world. She suddenly understood why humans were becoming known across the galaxy, not because they were technologically advanced, but because they survived things no other species would attempt. The realization settled heavily in her chest. Humans were not fragile, they were resilient. They were strong in ways her people didn't fully understand, and Daniel Carter was proof of that. As she backed away toward the door, still staring at the sleeping human, one thought echoed in her mind. If this is what a human is like at rest, what are they capable of when awake? She left the room silently, carrying the shock of discovery with her. Tomorrow's meeting with the Council would not be simple, because now she knew humanity held a strength her world had never accounted for, and the galaxy might not be ready for it. She tried. She dimmed the lights in her small room, lay on her soft crystal bedding, and closed her eyes. But her mind kept returning to the image of Daniel, the human, sleeping without any protection. No shield field, no mask, no environmental suit, nothing. It was unheard of. In her culture, even elders who lived on the station their entire lives slept with a light atmospheric shield humming quietly around their beds. It was tradition, safety, and common sense. Their bodies were sensitive. Their health depended on controlled conditions. A small shift in air humidity could cause illness. A mild drop in temperature could weaken the body for days. Yet Daniel lay there, breathing their air like a creature born under their red star. Her thoughts raced like plasma currents. Was he immune to environmental differences? Were humans simply stronger than her people believed? Or did he hide some biological adaptation unknown to the galaxy? By the time dawn cycle lights slowly brightened the halls, Lyra had already walked to the research chamber 3 times to check Daniel's readings. Everything remained stable, perfectly stable. Finally, unable to hold her confusion any longer, she decided to report her observations to someone she trusted, her mentor, scientist Voran. 1. Morning meeting. Voran was a tall Elira with faint golden lines across his skin, signs of wisdom and long years of study. He sat at a floating desk, reviewing data screens when Lyra entered. "Mentor, I need to discuss the human guest." Voran looked up, adjusting the glowing lenses resting over his eyes. "Ah, Daniel Carter. Yes, the council wishes to meet him shortly. Is something wrong?" Lyra hesitated. "He removed all his protective gear." Voran blinked slowly, clearly confused. "Removed? You mean he loosened it?" "No," Lyra said quietly. "He slept without any covering, completely exposed." The elder scientist froze. Then, in a rare display of shock, he stood so quickly his chair drifted back. "That is impossible." "I saw it myself," Lyra said, "and he showed no signs of distress." Voran walked to his data panel, fingers moving fast over the glowing symbols. He brought up Daniel's vitals for the night cycle. Lyra watched his expression shift from curiosity to disbelief. "This cannot be correct," he whispered. His oxygen levels remained in perfect balance, no stress reaction, no immune flare, and his core temperature did not fluctuate at all. Lyra nodded. "He appears stronger than our records describe." Voran looked up slowly. "If humans are this adaptable, we may have misjudged their species entirely." 2. Daniel wakes. Meanwhile, Daniel woke from the deepest sleep he had enjoyed in months. He stretched widely, letting out a long, satisfied groan. The bed was soft, the room quiet, and the atmosphere fresh. He almost forgot he was on an alien space station. He checked the time display. 10 minutes until Lyra arrived. "Better get ready," he muttered. He dressed in simple Earth clothing, comfortable travel pants and a soft shirt, and only placed the chest piece of his armor over it. He didn't bother with the helmet. The air still felt perfect. When the door chimed, Daniel opened it with a smile. Lyra stood there, stiff and awkward, looking like she held 1,000 questions inside. "Good morning," Daniel said kindly. Morning," Lyra replied. Her eyes scanned him quickly, pausing on his partially worn armor. "Daniel, your protective gear?" He shrugged. "I don't need the helmet. The air is fine." Lyra's face tightened with confusion and amazement, but she only said, "The council is ready to meet you." She led him through the glowing halls, glancing at him every few steps, as if checking to see whether he would suddenly collapse. Daniel found it both amusing and slightly worrying. "Are you okay?" he finally asked. She looked away quickly. "I do not understand humans," Daniel chuckled. "We get that a lot." But Lyra's expression remained serious. 3. Council Hall. The council hall was enormous, shaped like a circle with a floating platform in the center. The 6 counselors sat in raised seats, each surrounded by holographic screens showing the station's data streams. When Daniel stepped onto the center platform, small lights scanned him automatically. Every counselor watched the readings with intense focus. "Welcome, human Daniel Carter," the lead counselor spoke. "We are honored by your presence." Daniel bowed respectfully. "Thank you for receiving me." Voran stepped forward, clearing his throat. "Esteemed council, we must begin with a matter of importance." The counselors gave quiet permission. Voran looked at Daniel carefully. Human Daniel, is it true you slept last night without protective covering? Daniel blinked. Oh, yes? I didn't think I needed it. A wave of murmurs spread through the counselors. Daniel felt strangely like a student who had broken a school rule without knowing it existed. Lyra stepped beside her mentor. We witnessed his vitals. He adapted perfectly to our atmosphere. No discomfort, no side effects. One of the counselors leaned forward. Human, your species is famous for resilience, but this level of adaptation is unheard of. Daniel shrugged lightly. Humans can handle a lot. You'd be surprised. Another counselor spoke in a deep, echoing voice. Our atmospheres are delicate for many species. Even our closest allies require gear for several cycles before adjusting. But you slept as if this station was your home. Daniel cleared his throat. Well, Earth environments are kind of extreme. We grew up on a world with mountains, deserts, storms, and all kinds of climates. Maybe that helps. The counselors exchanged signaling gestures. Voran addressed them again. I recommend deeper study. If humans possess such natural strength, Earth may become a key partner in future projects. Daniel suddenly felt nervous. Study? He said quietly. Lyra stepped forward quickly. Not experiments, she reassured him. Only peaceful observation. You are our guest. Daniel nodded slowly. All right. Just making sure. The counselors laughed softly, their form of easing tension. 4. A sudden threat. The meeting was interrupted by a sharp alarm echoing through the hall. Lights shifted from soft blue to warning amber. A guard burst into the chamber. Counselors, a Cernak patrol ship has entered our outer defense zone. Lyra's eyes widened with fear. The Cernak? Here? Daniel had heard rumors of the Cernak, a warlike species known for aggressive expansions. Not friendly, definitely not diplomatic. Counselor Rethan spoke calmly, but with urgency. Place the station on alert. Redirect defense shields. Daniel looked around, noticing the sudden tension. Is this serious? Voran answered grimly. The Cernak rarely appear without purpose, and they do not respect borders. The guard continued, breathless. Their ship is scanning us. They are demanding to inspect our station for illegal species collaboration. The counselors exchanged dark looks. Lyra's voice trembled. They mean humans. They learn Earth has allied with us recently. They fear human resilience. They fear your strength. Daniel felt his pulse quicken. Are they preparing to attack? Possibly, Counselor Rethan answered. But their main goal is intimidation. Everyone turned to the hologram. The Cernak ship was enormous, armored with dark metallic scales. Lyra whispered, Why did they come now? Daniel understood why. Because he was here. Humans were new cosmic players, not the strongest, not the most advanced, but unpredictable, adaptable, and surprising. And some species feared that. 5. Human instinct. While the council argued their next moves, Daniel stepped closer to the hologram. He studied the ship's movements, the way it shifted position, testing boundaries. His instincts kicked in, trained reflexes from years of Earth defense programs. They're probing your blind spot, Daniel said suddenly. The counselors turned to him. Daniel pointed. Right there. That angle behind your eastern shield node. They'll push harder from that direction. The guard checked his data. He's correct, the guard gasped. Human Daniel predicted the Cernak pattern perfectly. Lyra looked at Daniel with shock and a strange, new respect. How did you know? Daniel shrugged. I grew up around unpredictable storms and unpredictable people. Patterns stand out. Voran whispered, Adaptable in physiology, adaptable in observation. Counselor Rethan nodded firmly. Human Daniel Carter, your presence here may be more valuable than we expected. 6. The growing realization. As the Cernak ship circled like a predator, Lyra glanced at Daniel again. This time her expression was different. Not confusion, not fear, but understanding. Daniel stood calm, focused, and steady, even under the threat of a hostile warship. Last night she had watched him sleep without protection. Today she watched him face danger without fear. And she finally understood. Humans were not fragile. Humans were not weak. Humans were something far more complex and powerful. They were survivors, and the galaxy was only beginning to learn what humanity was capable of. The Cernak warship drifted outside the Aelira station like a monster waiting for the right moment to strike. Its armor glowed with faint red markings, pulsing like a heartbeat. Every few seconds, the ship adjusted its position, testing the station's defenses, searching for weaknesses. Daniel stood among the counselors, watching the holographic display with narrowed eyes. He wasn't a soldier, not anymore, but his instincts were sharp. And right now, those instincts told him the Cernak were ready to cause trouble. Lyra stayed close to him. She kept her hands clasped in front of her chest, a common Alyra gesture of anxiety. Her glowing silver-blue eyes moved between Daniel and the hologram. She still remembered how he calmly slept without protective gear. Now she was seeing a different side of humanity, their alertness, their courage. "We cannot let them board the station," Counselor Rathan said firmly. "If they enter, they will search for weaknesses, for secrets, or worse." "Then what is the plan?" Daniel asked. The counselors hesitated. Their species had always preferred diplomacy over conflict. The Alyra were thinkers, creators, and scientists, not fighters. But the Cernak respected only strength, and right now the Alyra felt anything but strong. Finally, Counselor Vithira spoke. "We will try to negotiate. We must convince them to leave peacefully." Daniel folded his arms. "Diplomacy is good, unless the other side isn't interested." The hall fell silent. An alert chimed as a communication request flashed across the hologram. "They are calling us," a guard announced. The council took their seats, arranging themselves in a semicircle. Daniel stood slightly behind Lyra, watching carefully. "Open the channel," Rathan ordered. 1. The Cernak demand. The hologram shifted, showing the large, dark face of a Cernak commander. His skin looked like cracked stone with glowing red lines, and his eyes were sharp and predatory. "I am Commander Dravos," he growled. "This station is under investigation." Counselor Rathan responded with calm respect. "Commander Dravos, this is Alyra territory. You have no right to demand entry." "You harbor a human," Dravos said, eyes narrowing. "We sensed his arrival." Lyra gasped softly. "They were watching us." The commander continued, voice rumbling like distant thunder. "Humans spread. They adapt. They grow stronger too quickly. That makes them dangerous. We will board your station and inspect the human. Now." Daniel stepped forward before the council could reply. "That's not happening," he said firmly. Dravos turned his glowing eyes toward Daniel, studying him. "You, human, you speak boldly," Daniel shrugged. "You showed up uninvited. I'm not impressed." Lyra's mouth fell open. The Alyra rarely spoke so directly to the Cernak. But Daniel, he stood like he spoke to someone his own size. Dravos growled low. "You underestimate us. You think your kind is strong?" Daniel met his gaze without flinching. "I think you're scared." The counselors looked at him with shock. Lyra stared at him like he had just jumped into a star. The Cernak commander's expression twisted with anger. "This is your final warning," Dravos hissed. "Lower your shields or we will remove them." The hologram vanished. Alarms sounded immediately. "They are charging their weapon systems," a guard shouted. Counselor Rathan looked at Daniel. Human Daniel Carter. What do you suggest? 2. Human strategy. Daniel took a deep breath. We need to think smart. The Cernak don't want to fight. They want to intimidate you. If they destroy the station, they gain nothing. Their goal is fear. He pointed to the holographic display. See how they position their ship? They're aiming at your shield node, but they haven't primed their heavy cannons yet. That means bluff. We can use that. Voran nodded slowly. Your reading of their behavior is impressive. Daniel stepped closer to the control table. Reinforce the eastern shield, redirect extra power there, make it look like you're preparing for a real battle, and send a warning signal. Not a threat, just a message showing you're not afraid. Counselor Vithira tilted her head. Will that be enough? Daniel shook his head. Not alone. But trust me, Cernak respect strength. If you act confident, they'll think twice. The counselors exchanged uncertain looks. Lyra stepped forward. I trust him. Her voice was soft but steady. Daniel glanced at her, surprised. She offered a small, encouraging smile. Counselor Rathan nodded. Then we will follow the humans' plan. Orders were sent. Energy pulsed through the shield systems, redirecting power. The holographic defenses shifted, glowing brighter. The station looked stronger, ready. Daniel folded his arms. Now, we wait. 3. The confrontation. The Cernak ship paused its movement. Then a new hologram appeared. Commander Dravos again. You strengthen your shields, he growled. You prepare to resist us? Rathan answered calmly. We do not fear you. Daniel stepped beside him. Back off, Dravos. We're not playing your game. The commander's gaze flicked to Daniel. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he leaned closer to the screen. A human without armor, standing on an Aelira station, giving orders. Dravos bared sharp teeth. You think you are strong? Daniel lifted his chin slightly. Strong enough to tell you no. Silence filled the hall. Lyra's heart pounded. The counselors held their breath. Voran whispered, he challenges a Cernak commander, without any weapon. But the Cernak commander did not attack. Instead, he tilted his head slowly, studying Daniel. You are not like other species, Dravos finally said. Most tremble before us. You do not even raise your voice. Daniel shrugged lightly. If I'm scared, I don't show it. Dravos let out a rumbling laugh. It was not friendly, more like a predator amused by unexpected prey. Very well, human. I will test your words. The hologram cut off. Lyra gasped. Test? What does he mean? The station shook violently. The Cernak fired, but not a full blast. A moderate shot struck the shield. Daniel grabbed a nearby rail to steady himself. Hold the shield steady! Counselor Rathan shouted orders. Redirect power to central node! Another blast hit the station. A glowing crack appeared across the holographic shield display. Lyra's breath caught. The shield is weakening! Daniel moved quickly, tapping commands on the control table. Not if we shift the frequency. Humans call this tuning, a defense field. Counselor Vithira blinked. Tuning. Daniel adjusted the shield's resonance. The next blast struck and bounced off. The hall filled with relieved gasps. Lyra stared in amazement. You changed the shield to repel the energy? Daniel nodded. A trick we use back home. Works on storms and enemy fire. The Cernak ship paused again, confused. Then the commander's face returned to the hologram. You adapted your shield. During battle. Dravos narrowed his eyes at Daniel. Humans are not what we believed. Daniel stepped closer. Now leave. Dravos considered him for a long moment. Finally he growled, Very well. You have spirit. Perhaps too much. We will withdraw. For now. The hologram vanished. The Cernak ship turned away and jumped into hyperspace. 4. After the threat. The hall erupted with sighs of relief. Counselors stood from their seats, some shaking slightly from the tension. Lyra pressed a hand to her chest, overwhelmed. We faced a Cernak ship, and survived. Voron nodded. Thanks to the human. Lyra turned to Daniel, her eyes shining with awe. You stood against them with calm, even when they threatened all of us. How did you do it? Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. Humans deal with danger a lot. We're used to stress, and I've seen people bluff bigger enemies back home. Counselor Rathen approached him. Human Daniel Carter, today you have proven something important. Daniel raised a brow. What's that? That humans are resilient not only in body but in will, Rathan said. You did not need armor to stand strong. Lyra smiled softly. You slept without protection, and you faced danger without fear. Daniel laughed lightly. Well, fear is normal, but giving up never helps. The council bowed their heads in respect. You have earned our trust, Rathan said. And possibly the fear of the Cernak, Vithira added with a rare smile. Daniel exhaled slowly. I'm just glad no one got hurt. Lyra stepped closer. Daniel, you do not know what you have done for my people. Today you showed us that strength can look different from what we imagined. Daniel shrugged. Maybe, but I didn't do it alone. You all stayed calm. Lyra shook her head. No, you gave us courage. Her voice was gentle, full of admiration. For the first time since arriving, Daniel felt he truly belonged here. 5. A new understanding. As the hall quieted and the station returned to normal operations, Lyra walked beside Daniel down a glowing corridor. Daniel, she said softly, when I first saw you sleep without any protective gear, I thought humans were careless. Daniel chuckled. I get that a lot. But now I see humans are simply built differently, not only in the body but in the heart. Daniel slowed his steps, touched by her words. And this, Lyra continued, is why the galaxy fears you. Daniel smiled slightly. Fear isn't my goal, cooperation is. Lyra nodded. I know, and I want to help others understand that. She looked up at him with quiet determination. You changed our view of humanity today. Tomorrow? Who knows what more you will show us? Daniel laughed softly. Let's hope tomorrow is calmer. Lyra smiled. I doubt it. They walked on, unaware that new challenges and new discoveries were already waiting for them, and the galaxy was watching. The station slowly returned to normal, but the memory of the Cernak threat stayed fresh in every mind. Even during the calm morning cycle, when the soft blue lights rose across the halls, the Ayalira moved with a quiet mix of caution and curiosity. Daniel walked through the corridor with Lyra at his side. He noticed how many Ayalira paused as he passed. Some bowed politely, others whispered to one another. Many stared with wide eyes, not in fear, but in wonder. I think your people are staring at me, Daniel whispered. Lyra smiled lightly. They are. After what happened yesterday, they see you differently. You stood strong in the face of a Cernak warship. Few in our history have done that. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck shyly. I just did what anyone would do. No, Lyra said softly. Not anyone. Only someone who believes in his strength. Daniel wasn't sure how to respond, so he simply smiled as they continued walking. 1. A new council decision. The morning meeting had a different atmosphere. Instead of tension and fear, the council hall felt alive with quiet excitement. Holographic displays floated above the chamber, showing new readings, new plans, new possibilities. Counselor Rethan greeted Daniel with a respectful nod. Human Daniel Carter, your presence is requested once more. Daniel stepped onto the floating platform at the center of the hall. Lyra stood behind him as a support figure. Counselor Vithira spoke first. After yesterday's events, we have studied both the Cernak ship's movements and your actions. We have come to a decision. Daniel glanced at Lyra, who gave him a reassuring look. Rethan continued. Your resilience, adaptability, and calm strength make humans valuable allies. We wish to form a deeper partnership with your world. Daniel blinked. A partnership? Yes, Vithira replied. A joint research and defense agreement between Earth and Aelira. Daniel's heart raced. This was more than he expected. We want to understand humans, Rethan added. Your biology, your instincts, your courage. We believe your people may hold answers the galaxy needs. Daniel nodded slowly. Earth will be honored. I will report this to my leaders. But before the moment could settle, the station lights flickered. Lyra frowned. That is unusual. The guard tapped his screen. Incoming long-range message. Not from Cernak. Unknown origin. A glowing symbol flashed across the hologram, one none of the Aelira recognized, but Daniel did. That's a human emergency code, he said quietly. The hall fell silent. 2. A call for help. The message opened into a grainy hologram of a damaged human ship. Sparks flew behind the officer recording the message. This is Captain Hayes of the UEA Starship Horizon. We were attacked near the outer rings. Unknown enemy. Not Cernak. Something else. We need assistance. Any allied vessel nearby. The signal cut in and out. Static swallowed the image. Then one clear phrase emerged. They are hunting humans. The hologram vanished. Lyra placed her hand over her heart. A human ship? Attacked? Who would do this? Varan checked the readings. The ship's last signal came from a region not far from our sector. If we leave now, we can reach them. Counselor Rethan looked at Daniel. Will Earth send help? Daniel shook his head. The horizon is too far from Earth's fleet. But they might still be alive if we move fast. Vithira hesitated. The Aelira have never entered an active conflict zone. Daniel met her gaze firmly. You don't need to fight. Just help us find them. Lyra stepped closer to the council. If we want partnership with humans, we cannot stay silent when they are in danger. The counselors exchanged glances. Finally, Rethan nodded slowly. Prepare a rescue vessel. 3. Into the unknown. The rescue ship, the Aelira Starwind, was fast, faster than Daniel expected. Its smooth, crystal-like hull glowed blue as it lifted from the docking bay. Daniel took a seat near the navigation station, Lyra beside him. She studied his calm expression. Are you afraid for your people? Daniel exhaled. I am, but fear won't help them. Action will. Lyra admired that answer. Humans had emotions just like any species, but they faced their fears differently. They pushed through them. As the Starwind left the station, the stars stretched into streaks of light. Hours passed. The ship glided through dark regions of space rarely traveled. Daniel watched the star maps with a tense jaw. Then, signal detected, the pilot announced. It matches the horizon's distress code. Bring it up, Daniel said. The hologram activated. The horizon floated in darkness, damaged, smoking, silent. Pieces of its outer hull drifted around it like broken wings. Lyra gasped softly. It looks wounded. Daniel stood quickly. Scan for survivors, the ship AI responded. Life signs detected. Faint. Daniel's heart tightened. We need to board. Now. 4. Boarding the horizon. The Starwind attached to the horizon's side with gentle magnetic locks. A narrow corridor extended between the two ships. Daniel stepped forward first, wearing only light armor. Lyra followed him, her scanning device glowing softly. As they entered the dark hallway of the horizon, Daniel felt a rush of memories, training missions, old friends, the smell of metal corridors. Lyra whispered, It feels heavy here, like sorrow. Daniel nodded. Humans don't give up easily. If there are survivors, we'll find them. Smoke drifted through the air. Lights flickered on the walls. The ship had suffered a serious attack. Suddenly, Lyra's scanner beeped. Life signs! Ahead! They rushed through the narrow corridor and reached the command deck. There, lying against a control panel, was Captain Hayes, breathing weakly. Two more officers lay nearby, injured but alive. Daniel knelt beside the captain. Hayes, it's me, Daniel Carter. The captain opened his eyes slowly. Daniel, thank God. You got the message. Lyra moved quickly, treating wounds with Lyra medical tools. Hayes watched her with confusion. Lyra, helping us? He whispered. Daniel smiled slightly. Yeah, things changed. Hayes grabbed Daniel's arm. Listen, it wasn't Cernak, some new species, fast ships, organic weapons. They only went after humans. Daniel's expression hardened. Why humans? We don't know, Hayes whispered. But they said humans carry something they want. Lyra felt a chill run through her. Humans, being targeted? But why? Daniel shook his head. We'll figure it out later. First, we get everyone out alive. 5. A new enemy appears. As they prepared to evacuate the injured officers, an alarm blared through the horizon. The AI voice crackled. Unknown ship approaching, danger level, extreme. Daniel and Lyra looked at each other. Is it the same attackers? Lyra asked. Daniel stared out of the cracked window. A shadow moved across the stars. A dark, organic-looking ship shaped like a claw. His answer was firm. Yes. The ship fired a beam of blue-green energy. It sliced through space like lightning. Daniel shouted, We need to get everyone to the Starwind now! Lyra supported Captain Hayes, while Daniel carried another wounded officer over his shoulder. They rushed back through the corridor as the horizon shook violently. The Starwind's pilot called through the intercom. The enemy ship is locking on to us! Take off as soon as we're inside, Daniel yelled. They reached the airlock. Daniel pushed the last officer through and turned back to Lyra. Hurry! Lyra stumbled as the ship shook, almost losing balance. Daniel grabbed her wrist and pulled her inside just as the airlock sealed shut. The Starwind broke away from the horizon, but the enemy ship turned toward them. They're following us, the pilot shouted. Shields up, Lyra cried. The ship trembled as energy blasts struck its sides. Daniel's jaw clenched. If they want humans, then they're after me. Lyra turned to him with wide eyes. Then we must not let them get you. 6. The human spirit. Daniel rushed to the command deck. Can we outrun them? The pilot shook her head. Not for long. Rathan's voice broke through the comms from the station. Starwind, return immediately. We are sending reinforcements. Daniel stared at the hologram of the pursuing ship. Its movements were smooth, predatory, almost alive. Fear should have overwhelmed him, but instead he felt something else, determination. He leaned over the controls. Shift course. The pilot blinked. To where? Daniel pointed. Toward the asteroid field. They expect us to run straight. They won't expect us to go into danger. Lyra looked shocked. Daniel, that region is unstable. Many ships crash there. Daniel smiled. Humans are used to unstable. The Starwind dove into the asteroid field. Massive rocks drifted in silent darkness. The enemy ship followed, but struggled to maneuver through the tight space. Daniel reacted quickly. Sharp left. The Starwind slipped between two spinning boulders. Drop altitude. The ship dipped suddenly, barely avoiding a jagged asteroid. The enemy ship struck a rock, scraping its hull. Lyra's eyes widened. We are losing them. Daniel nodded. Good. Now let's end this. He pointed to a massive asteroid splitting into two pieces. Hide between those halves. The Starwind slid silently into the shadow. Moments later, the enemy ship passed by, searching. Daniel whispered, "Now, full throttle." The Starwind blasted forward, escaping the enemy's sight. Within minutes, they were out of the asteroid field. The enemy ship was nowhere to be seen. The crew cheered. Lyra exhaled with relief. "You saved us again." Daniel smiled gently. "We saved each other." 7. A new future begins. When the Starwind docked back at the Alira station, the Council and many citizens welcomed the survivors with gratitude. Captain Hayes was taken to the medical wing. His final words before resting were, "Daniel, we need to prepare. Something new is coming." Daniel nodded. "We will." Lyra stood beside him, looking at him with deep respect. "You have shown us what humans truly are," she said softly. "Not fragile, not reckless, but brave, adaptable, and impossible to predict." Daniel smiled. "I guess that's just who we are." Rethan stepped forward. "From this day forward, the Alira and humans will stand together. Whatever threatens you, threatens us." Lyra turned to Daniel. "Your arrival changed everything." Daniel looked out at the stars, aware that danger still waited in the galaxy. But he felt ready. With allies, with new friends, with the strength of humanity inside him. "We're just getting started," he said quietly. And somewhere deep in space, the mysterious enemy watched. The galaxy had changed, and humanity was rising.